Let's welcome to the show the Hill columnist, Kristin Tate. It's great to have you back, Kristin. Okay, a growing body of research. It's still growing, this studies that we see, the number of them. Lockdowns don't work. States with lockdowns destroyed their economies, but cases are still rising. COVID cases in Texas dropping by more than half. But didn't President Biden say the governor's decision there to fully open up, stop the mask mandate was, quote, Neanderthal thinking?
That's right. I mean, there's no reason, Liz, at this point that every state in America shouldn't be fully reopened. The data is very clear. These lockdowns, they don't do much to stop the spread of COVID, but they are devastating to the economy. And it's become obvious that for many of these Democrats, the lockdowns were never about keeping people safe or healthy. They were about power. And, you know, the COVID-19, it's offered politicians and bureaucrats who are drunk with power the opportunity to enact these major power grabs while invading on people's privacy, all while growing the size and scope of the state. It's shameful and it's been devastating. People have lost their businesses, their livelihoods. They've lost everything. Meanwhile, we've seen depression and other mental illnesses on the rise. We've got to reopen the country. But you know what? I think a lot of people are waking up, especially as they get vaccinated, and they want to get back to normal life. So I believe we are going to start seeing pushback against some of these leaders who just refuse to let up on their lockdown policies.
Yeah, we're showing the University of Michigan study showing no impact on COVID-19 from the lockdowns. We've got the death rate in the U.S. declined steeply in February and March, flatlining in April. Yesterday's 7-day moving average looks like the lowest since around mid-October. But then you have things like the University of Michigan saying that, and then the governor of Michigan saying she still wants to target bars and restaurants, even though the COVID cases coming out of there is something like 2%.
Right. Well, the same people who say they believe in data and science are ignoring the data and science. These Democrats in charge, they don't believe in science. They believe in power wrapped in a veneer of the label of science. I mean, look at New York State. They had some of the harshest lockdown measures put in place in the nation, yet they have the nation's second highest death per million rate, and they've had one of the highest job loss rate. And then you compare that with Florida and Texas, where I am. We've been fully reopened for a while now, and we're doing just fine here, and people are getting back to work, going back to their normal lives.
Yeah, well, when you mentioned Texas, let's listen to Dr. Fauci. He can't explain why Texas COVID cases are dropping. Let's listen to this with Jim Jordan from last week. Watch.
What explains why Texas is so darn low compared to the rest of the states? Lockdown states have a much higher case rate than the state of Texas, which is over a month ago now, said we're not going to lock down, we're not going to have all these mandates that you say we have to have.
Yeah, there's a difference between lockdown and the people obeying the lockdown. You know, you could have a situation where they say we're going to lock down, and yet you have people doing exactly what they want to do.
Is that what is happening in the top 8 states in the country? They're just not following what's been told. They're not listening to Dr. Fauci.
So he's saying, you know, they're not following the rules. But there's so much more mitigating factors against what Fauci said. You've got a quick reacts here. We have another soundbite we want you to listen to. What do you think, Kristin?
Sure. No, it's ridiculous. I mean, places like Florida got it right with a targeted approach. We can protect the elderly who still haven't gotten vaccinated and the people who have underlying conditions, and let everyone else go back to normal. That's the way to do it.
Again, the lockdown states, Michigan, Minnesota, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Washington State, all of their COVID cases are going up. You stay indoors, the COVID cases are going to go up. Reason Magazine's Jacob Sullum has been all over this. Today, a frustrated mom took it to her school board saying enough is enough. Let's listen to this.
I know what I'm going to be met with. But Ms. Taylor, the CDC, we did not vote for people at the CDC. We did elect leaders who do create policy. We elected the 5 of you. We chose you to make difficult decisions for our children. We chose you to make decisions that would be in our children's best interest.
She's saying the masks are really harming children. The WHO says masks for up to age 5. But you know what I mean, Kristin? She sees it. She's a mom. Parents are seeing their children wearing masks for 7 hours in schools. We get it's dangerous, but we don't know, you know, people really don't know if the science really is there that the COVID-19 is hitting children. You know what I mean, Kristin? So she's saying, are you aware of the harm you're doing? Your final word.
Right, and there's a lot of data suggesting that COVID actually is not particularly dangerous to children. Children just aren't getting very ill when they get COVID in general. But these complaints are only applicable to the kids who are lucky enough to actually be back in the classroom. There are still kids around the country who are suffering because they're still at home doing remote learning, which widens the achievement gap. It's really harmful to our country, to society. We're creating this generation of students who will be unprepared because online virtual learning is inferior. We're failing our kids.
Kristin Tate, thank you so much. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much,
Next
Liz.
up, former U.S. Attorney